Mm-hmm. I don't know. But what I do know is that it is Friday afternoon here on the East Coast and Friday morning on the West Coast, and it is time for more Boss Rush.
What's up, dudes?
Hey, guys. So good to see you. The two of
Morning.
you there. I'm sorry we don't have Susan with us today. Susan had family to tend to and take care of, so she's not going to be joining us today. But I, Chris Melisinos, Principal Evangelist for Video Games at AWS, are here with my co-host, as always, Mr. Oh, this way.
Dean Takashi, lead writer for GameSpeed Adventure Beat.
That's right. And
Mark DeLaura, the guy who never remembers his bio. But I'm happy to be here. Nice to see you all.
Mark DeLaura. Yes, there was a big long sigh right at the end of that one.
Yeah. How you guys doing? How was your week?
Oh, my week was good, eventful, packed.
Yeah?
Dice is next week, right? So we are, heading into there. But Dean, how about you?
Super busy with all kinds of news. Yesterday, Thursday, I had to run 13 stories. Which is
Oh my
a
God.
bit more than usual.
It's like CES level.
Yeah.
I don't know how Dean does it, but
He's got
knows to do
a
it.
network of bots, I'm guessing. I don't know how else he would do it. Like he was doing it before those existed, so I don't know.
I kind of wish for that right now. It's like, who's got a bot to give to me?
Yeah,
Dean bot.
yeah, exactly. But if it's writing in the Dean style, then we have to see. But I don't know if we could keep up. Kind of reminds me of that time when Dwight Schrute on The Office was trying to keep up with the computers yelling against him, and they were griefing him. It was great.
It's like that old train versus human thing, like from 100 years ago, right?
Exactly. How about you, Mark? How's your week been?
It's been good. It's been busy. It snowed here a little bit in Seattle. Now it's gone. Things happen on the internet and in DC that I spent way too much time yelling about. But we'll just gloss over that for now.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're here to talk about video games. And
We're going to talk about games.
That's
Well,
right.
that's going to come into our video game news discussion, though.
Yeah.
So, there's these little things called tariffs that are starting to happen. And,
Right.
Yeah, maybe we want to go ahead and jump in there. And guys, gang, if you are listening, let us know if audio levels are good. I think they're good on this side. Everyone seems to be in the yellow, so that sounds good, right?
Yay.
All right.
That's good. Actually, I removed my microphone a little closer. I guess, we don't exactly know what's going to get hit with tariffs for sure, what the detail is. And I think that as Donald Trump implements these tariffs, not only against Canada and Mexico, that's delayed for 30 days, China, 10%, already happening. And then he mentioned that he was going to put tariffs on semiconductors, and he was also going to put them on Taiwan, which is our ally, right? Another ally like Mexico. And that would be tremendously disruptive for the entire electronics food chain, right? And so, China, I think a lot of the supply chain is able to bypass a fair amount of that right now in semiconductors, but Taiwan is unavoidable right now. So NVIDIA, as an example, gets all of their chips from Taiwan, right? TSMC. Right. And so Jensen Huang went to the White House. The CEO of NVIDIA went to the White House on last Friday, the day before Trump said he was going to implement all these tariffs, and he did implement them against China, Mexico, and Canada on Saturday, and they went into effect on the 4th, and then two of them got postponed. But the interesting thing was he didn't announce semiconductors, and he did not announce the Taiwan tariffs And this was a day after he got to visit at the White House from Jensen Huang, who has, one of the most valuable companies in the world right now, and it's an American company. And I can imagine how that conversation may have gone, and we can only hope that maybe a message got delivered saying that this could be very bad. But yeah, if it comes back to actually having a trade war and tariffs, the CTA has estimated that a game console could cost 40% more than it does today. And so you're pushing something like a PS5 Pro above $1,000, and I think that's going to kill the game industry. So it's going to kill console sales. It's going to kill TV sales, right? And so all the things related to playing games, graphics cards, PC gaming rigs, they would all get hit with much higher prices. And so that's something to worry about. I did have a chance to ask Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of Take-Two Interactive, this question about what do you think the possibility of tariffs, and he said, well, as an economist, I am not a fan of trade wars and tariffs. And so so it's clear that where the industry stands. The ESA also on Monday had to issue its own statement saying that tariffs could cause significant harm to the game industry, so they don't want them either.
Well,
But,
given the fact that you
we'll
can't
see,
get, given the fact that you can't get a 5090 or 57, it's not going to hurt him at all because you can't get one. No, just kidding, right? And who knows if they're even going to stick around, right? So the only thing the only input I'll give here is that the situation is extraordinarily fluid, right, at the moment.
Yeah. We'll see how it turns out.
Yeah.
But, let's hope that it's not going to turn out crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, good, Mark. Nothing?
I got nothing good to say.
All right.
Well, in the chat here, Michael Fitch, hey, buddy, says, ask Brazil how their console industry is doing with 200% tariffs there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they also have a tax on investments that go into game companies in Brazil from outside the country. Therefore, there is no venture capital going into Brazil and its game companies. It has to all be homegrown.
Yeah.
So, tariffs are not a fantastic thing.
Yeah, lots of side effects.
Yeah.
And it is interesting. I guess the thing that I'm thinking about, and like just thinking about it from a game theory perspective, like saying that you're going to do a tariff and then rolling it back, aside from the way that it impacts the market in the middle of it, now Jensen owes the president a favor, and he looks like he's responsive, and there are no tariffs after all, and all this. There's like lots of interesting side effects of tariffs and then not having tariffs. So just always something to think about, and we're going into this, and I'm like as anti-tariff as can be, and angrier than I've been for 4 years or so. But it's just worth keeping a level head and understanding why these forces work the way they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's all kinds of news still. Another thing that I published on Monday was about a new report from Amir Satvat, who said that he's the Game Jobs Resource Champion and has been tracking a lot of data very transparently about games in industry or jobs in the game industry, and he said that hiring may finally be catching up with the layoff rate in games as of January.
Let's go pull that.
This would be
up here, right here. Oops,
the first time in 30 months that this has happened.
Yeah, that's not the one you want. This is the one you want.
And that's that's not to say that layoffs are not happening. I think the
Right.
game layoff tracker for January or so far this year is at 845 layoffs already, and we are seeing studios make these announcements every day almost. but I think what he detects is the good thing is that there are enough job postings out there and job postings getting filled that he has evidence that there's a lot of sort of quiet hiring going on at the same time that all of this layoff is happening. So that's
That's
something to be happy about.
Yep. Yeah, it certainly wasn't too quiet on the laying people off front this past week or 2 weeks. So
Yeah, here's the actual browser they wanted to see, not the YouTube studio window. Yeah,
And
so
squiggly line is not looking so crazy right now. So
right.
it's normal crazy as opposed to double crazy.
Yeah. I mean, all of that right there, folks, that is a bubble. That's what we call a bubble right there, right? And right sizing in
What's the
space.
inverse of a bubble? It's like
Inverse of a bubble would be buble.
it's like a bubble of bad things. Is that
a deflation of
black hole?
Exactly.
And
so make sure you go to GamesBeat and check out the article for really good analysis of it. Then also all the links to friend of shows, Amir Satvat, friend to the whole industry. So yay to Amir.
Yeah. And there are a lot of year-end numbers that came out that might make people shake their heads. We did have Take-Two and EA earnings. They're talking about that in a bit, but also Drakestar came out with their numbers last week. Convoy Ventures, Hero Capital, and then Quantum Tech Partners. And these are all about M&A data and financial investments into the game industry, and they were all up for 2024, right? And so more money came into the game industry in 2024 in these different forms than 2023, and 2023 was not so great a year. It's lower than 2022 when we had peaks because of things like, say, the M&A, the acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft that was announced that year. And so, if you took out some of those anomalies, it was kind of flattish to up in the last year. And I talked to Alina Soltis at Quantum Tech Partners about her numbers, and she said that when the contrast between the people who sort of felt all this pain last year of not being able to raise money with the numbers actually being way up in terms of like maybe a doubling of the amount of investment that happened into game companies. It's kind of hard to reconcile, and she thinks that part of the reason is that there was a heavy weight on those investments towards big financial investments into companies like Epic Games, right? Epic was $1.5 billion raised from Disney, right? So Disney invested into Epic, and so if you looked at that, like then a lot of the early stage money was not as good, right? And so in that sense, that explains why people still had a very hard time raising money. There are also, still the problem of like too many game companies around that were funded, a few years ago or a couple of years ago, now needing their next rounds of money and not finding it, right? Because the amount of investment that's happening now, even at say 4.3 billion, is still a lot lower than the $10 billion peak, right? And so it's just that explains some of the things that are happening.
Yeah, but I mean, it's important to remember, right? It's it is overinvestment during that massive rush, right? And so if we kind of normalize that, we take out the outlier. Does this look very different than prior years? Yes, still down a little bit, but as you point out, it's also starting to creep back up, and that kind of falls in line with Amir's findings of getting to some equilibrium with regard to hiring in versus studios letting people go. So hopefully we're starting to get to some more stable waters, right, from an investment and from a growth perspective, right, for 2025. So we're only a month in, right? So
Yeah.
let's keep those trends, even if they're small, just continue to go, upward.
Yeah. The earnings this week, interesting. AMD's had a fantastic quarter. Revenues up 24%. Stock fell anyway, but they're benefiting from the AI boom, demand for processors and GPUs for AI, and they've got a leg up in architecture on over Intel right now, so they're gaining market share. Their numbers for game console chips and other semi-custom chips were way down, and so it does mean that the PlayStation and Xbox consoles are not selling so well. Like, in fact, Xbox had confirmed that by saying their hardware revenue for the most recent quarter was down 29% from a year earlier. Right? And so the odd thing right now, I think, is that the only company that's launching a new console, more news coming on April 2nd, is Nintendo with the Switch 2. But Nintendo has gone a good 8 years or 7 years here, right? Since since the Switch was announced, or introduced, and so they're overdue for launching a console, whereas the other guys, launched in is it 2019? I think, yeah. And so they're hoping to stretch this out, but it's maybe not a great idea to have stretched it out. There is opportunity because of that. I think we see things like the next playground console for kids, a motion sensing console for kids, coming out and trying to grab market share from, say, Nintendo, and like going under their price with a Wii like console. So there's opportunity, but there's also, I think some of these console folks may have waited too long, and I think they were shell shocked from the pandemic as well, and the supply chain disruptions that happened then. So when they had really high demand for their consoles, they couldn't make enough of them.
Right.
So, but yeah.
That whole thing with whenever you announce something that's coming, right? We talked about this before. It's that Osborne effect of, hey, this thing is going to be coming, is going to be great. And it's like, fantastic. It's not that much further away. I guess I'll wait, right? And we're long enough into the cycle of these consoles where people are like, if I haven't played it, a Switch for all this time, I'm kind of good to wait to hear what's gonna happen next. So that's not, that's not surprising, right? I'm super excited, as we mentioned last week, about the Switch 2, and of course, more information on my birthday. So it's going to be a banger of a system. So that's all good luck. That's all good luck.
That's hilarious. Maybe they can send you one. Oh wait.
If anyone. No, all right, let's keep going.
Yeah. EA's earnings were also quite revealing in terms of just the news that's come out of EA lately, right? So we know that Dragon Age, the Veilguard, was not popular. It sold 1.5 million units, and it was off by 50%. Sorry, my alarm's going off here. Get rid of that. And
they found Dean. Whoop,
yeah,
whoop. They found him.
So the Dragon Age, was in development for 10 years at BioWare, and it came back with this lackluster results. It was criticized for being woke. It was also criticized in terms of gameplay and some of the I guess different kinds of choices or options people had in the game. So not exactly clear why it didn't do so well. EA did not really fully explain this in the call, but they did note that BioWare is going down to making one game at a time. So they've had some layoffs and redistribution of the staff. When EA bought BioWare, they were making 7 games at a time, and So this means that the next game that's coming is Mass Effect, and until Mass Effect, which is in pre-production still, is done, they're not going to do a new Dragon Age. Right? And so the Dragon Age people are going, wow, wait a minute, it's going to be years until we get a new game. And then in the results too, EA, heavily said that they're, investing in Battlefield now. But they also said that, a major update for Apex Legends is due, but they're not going to get to that until Battlefield is done. So Battlefield is supposed to ship this year. But again, it's sort of EA realizing that we can't do as many games as we used to anymore. And like, this is EA, right? And these are big studios, they put, more studios working on Battlefield. Folks like Criterion, I think, the racing game guys are making Battlefield. And they also announced Battlefield Labs, which kind of means that development is not going to happen in secret anymore. It's going to happen where, in a transparent way, they're going to share the game out with as many players as possible, collect the feedback, and do that multiple times, and then eventually get to exactly the kind of game that people want. So they don't want to have this Dragon Age problem of develop a game for 10 years and it turns out it's not the game that players want, right? Sony had this problem, right, with Concord, and we saw what happened there. So anyway, these are the new ideas coming out of one of the biggest AAA companies here that's still independent. And Take-Two had their results, and the results there were, well, too bad we don't have a launch date just yet for Grand Theft Auto 6. Mafia, the Old Country, is coming in the summer, but no launch date for that either. They are launching Civ 7 on February 11th here, and I've been playing that a bit. And it's an enjoyable game. It's I think it's very entertaining to just sort of play it and let it happen, but to actually actively control things across your empire when it's big, I think it's missing some of the old interface options that it used to have, where at a glance you could see what's happening in all your cities.
So basically, the game should come in a big popcorn bucket, right? So you set it all up, and then you just start watching.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? I'm not gonna I'm not gonna attack somebody because that's just gonna ruin my economy, right? I'm gonna wait for somebody else to attack me, maybe.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm just gonna watch it.
I'm gonna watch the world
be its own
burn.
sim.
It's just reminded me too much of Cookie Clicker, but I'm gonna have to go get this on the 11th.
Yeah, but yeah, when Grand Theft Auto 6 lands, is what everybody in the game industry wants to know now, so they can avoid that date with their own games, right?
Yeah.
And interesting question still as to what they're going to price it at, and they didn't clarify that yet. But if they can get it at $100, people will perceive that, consumers won't like that, but the industry will perceive that as a good thing, because it will be the first game that has sort of cracked that barrier of catching up with the inflation and pricing the game where it really ought to be priced in terms of how much it costs to make that game.
Yeah.
And,
the important thing to remember is that even if they do it, not every game is going to be a Grand Theft Auto 6. So, adjust your expectations accordingly.
Yeah.
Right.
But if they do crack that barrier, they have done a favor for every other game maker.
Sure. Absolutely.
By not naming their launch date yet, they're doing a disservice to all the other game makers. But like, everybody's prepared to be skeptical here, and I constantly hear that, this game is going to slip. It's no way it's coming out in 2025.
It is interesting though, with Grand Theft Auto, because we were talking, I believe, even last week, and there were some other conversations going on this week with other program stuff I was working on. People are like, "Oh, the forever games," and typically it's a live ops kind of focus game. I'm like, no, Grand Theft Auto 5 is like, like some people are like, I bought this machine just to play this thing, and I'll play this thing for a decade. Right. So, you know, it doesn't always have to be just those live ops things, right? This is so big, and it's going to, good, bad, or indifferent, it's just going to suck a lot of the oxygen out of the room for a period of time, right?
Yeah. And they are expecting, I think, they have not spelled it out, but they're expecting the update GTA Online, you know, for Grand Theft Auto 6. And whether, you know, that's a brand new one or it's just an update, will be interesting, but that's also going to continue to suck time out of people long after the launch, right? So,
how about you, Mark? Are you looking forward to this GTA 6?
Will I buy it? Will I play it? Yes and yes. Will I play it a lot? Probably not.
Right.
I think the series has moved away from the things that I like in Grand Theft Auto. Like for me, the peak of fun Grand Theft Auto was probably GTA 3 or maybe Vice City, where it was a fun world, but also a lot of silliness, and a lot of, you know, ability to do stupid things, jump over things,
driving over people.
Police, driving over people, but it was a little less hard. A little less mafia, a little less,
right?
You know, shooting somebody in the head, and a little more silliness and over the top, like goofiness. I like that more. That's just me.
Yeah, it's like stacking vehicles to make ramps and stuff, then taking a tank and trying to roll over.
All that stuff. I love that. That was super
stuff.
Fun. Yeah. I'm sure you could probably still do that all in the game, but I haven't tried it.
It's funny how like over time I've come to like it more. Yeah. Say the more serious it's gotten. Like with the plot and the sort of cinematics and all of the, I guess, attempt to be, you know, very artistic, I guess, or, you know, good storytelling. So all those things were more attractive to me in like 4 and 5, right? So.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and I think that's probably more common. It seems like, given the popularity of it. I'm just reminded of when Vice City came out. Like, I lived in a duplex, and we drilled a hole in the floor and ran an Ethernet cable down into the sub basement and like over into the other guys. Yeah, so we could play it because it was so much fun. We like played it for ages and ages and ages. But I haven't felt that way about a GTA for a long time, and mostly that's just because I'm not that interested in the story.
Oh my gosh, you're talking about actually punching holes in floors and walls to run cable, and you just had me think back, man, when we used to run like Quake servers on, you know, like multi-processor big iron servers, like over Christmas break at Sun, and just run multiplayer games while everyone was out of the office. And you had to drag cables down the hall and do all that stuff. Holy cow. Amazing. Well, Mark, are there any news stories that kind of caught your eye this week that you wanted to cover as well?
Well, there's 2 ESA things that jumped to, I mean, there's lots of things, but the 2 things that are maybe the most interesting and relevant are the 2 ESA things. So one being that they're going to do a big accessibility related session at GDC that they announced. I'm not sure if it's in the main stage, but they announced this like yesterday, the day before, and a list of like a bunch of really high quality people: EA, Google, Microsoft, Nintendo, Ubisoft, to talk about accessibility. Yeah. That's super exciting. I was glad to see them pushing that. That's really important. The other ESA thing was an announcement of a conference. Yeah. It's going to be in Las Vegas. It's called ICON, Interactive Innovation Conference.
Yeah, I have it up here on the screen so people can see.
So it's going to be in Las Vegas. It reminded me of DICE, which is next week. So I'm not quite sure yet how it distinguishes itself from that. I'm sure we'll hear a lot more as we move on. A little bit, they really, one of the things they emphasized though was the kind of cross-media stuff. So this is one of the things I definitely missed about E3. You know, now that E3 is gone, we don't have as much milling about of all the different entertainment industries and like the mixing and matching that used to happen at E3. So you see Spielberg running around. I remember we had conversations with Snoop Dogg and his people because he was super into games. You know, and that was really exciting to see. And maybe this fills that gap a little bit. Yeah. But if that's the case, I'm not sure why it's in Las Vegas. So I'm a little puzzled, but I am excited, and I'm looking forward to it. I was sad to hear it's not till 2026. At first, I was like, "Oh, it's in
Yeah.
April. This is gonna be great." Oh, 2026. Okay, so
Yeah.
anyway, TBD.
Yeah, I was looking at it too, and I'm going like, oh, that's very dice-like, but it also like, oh, it's uncomfortably close to Game Speed Summit.
Oh no!
But then I also
Oh,
said,
yeah.
then I said, oh, it's 2026 though. So
But I was
and,
saying now, is this is this a GTA 6 game release issue, right? That we're gonna have going on, Dean. So
Yeah.
we're gonna have to ramp it up.
yeah,
We're gonna have
But,
to fold Icon into GameSpeed.
yeah. And the other interesting thing that was a smaller announcement was that Christopher Dring is doing a B2B conference for thought leadership at the Summer Game Fest itself, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's
I heard
great.
about that.
so there's this thing in June that maybe in some ways is a rival to the ESA thing in April, which would also be a rival to the Dice Summit in February, right?
Yeah.
So like people are not going to go to all of these things.
But now what you just reminded me of is if then there's going to be this leadership, conference that's going to happen in Summer Game Fest. Now you got me thinking back to when we actually had sessions at E3, right? Developed like mini GDC at E3, and in the Video Game History Foundation's launch of the research library last week, I found the program that for my first speaking engagement at E3 in there. And I was like, oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
So look, nothing new is under the sun. It's all coming full circle again, right?
Yeah.
Was that at Sun Microsystems?
When I was at Sun, yes, nothing new
That's
under
awesome.
the sun Microsystems because it was the
Man,
best.
I moderated at E3, those panels at E3 for like 5 or 6 years in a row. That was super fun. I loved it. Yeah. So if we can fill that gap a little bit, great. Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, the details are interesting. Like they're taking out a bunch of Fontainebleau new hotel in Las Vegas. I was there during CES, and it's a very beautiful, big, giant hotel that took I forget 20 years to build or something.
Holy cow.
And it is going to be a summit, business to business event, and not a show. It's not going to have like fans and exhibits there, but it is meant for those executives to sort of meet with each other in a way they haven't been able to do since E3, and it's also going to draw in a lot of the tech companies that are from industries that gaming is influencing, like whether it's automotive or medical, health and medical, things where gamification has taken root, or game engines are spreading to digital twins, things like that. And so it's a little different as a conference in terms of who it's trying to draw in. It does want to encourage sort of the inter-industry cooperation, I think, that has been lacking, and probably influence politicians as well, because that's the ESA's ultimate job of giving games a regulatory environment that they can live with.
It is exceptionally hard to convince a staffer to be able to come out to Las Vegas. Let me tell you, I've been down that road.
Yeah, I think
they're not going to sign off on that.
Yeah, I mean, part of the lesson that they have learned though is that Los Angeles was too difficult for them to create a low-cost event. Right. And, and so ultimately, trying to rent out, the entire convention center in Los Angeles became so expensive that the show became too expensive for the exhibitors, right?
Yeah.
And that was part of the downfall of E3. People just, realized, like say Nintendo, realized that we don't need a booth. We're just doing Nintendo Directs all the time,
right?
And that has worked out extremely well for them. And so and things like the Summer Game Fest and the Game Awards are also showing that digital can accomplish so much, right? And so the in-person shows, they're not necessarily going to be profitable if you do them in LA. There's so much space though in Las Vegas that you would think that this would be a less expensive place to get things done. There's so many hotel rooms as well that when people travel to it, they're not complaining the way they do about GDC.
Yeah,
right?
but it's still expensive to get there. That's the problem, right? And it's all the incidentals around that. Plus, Vegas, for those of you who've never been, you're like, oh, I have to be at this meeting in 20 minutes, and I see the building right there. And it's like an hour walk away.
Yeah, well, that's a CES problem. They're going to do this in one hotel, right? So I don't think it's going to be as crazy. But you have to move to a city with Southwest Airlines in there. I think
yeah, for sure. Hey, real quick, we have quite a bit of activity going on in the chat here, so just wanted to call some people out. Nick Schneider, first time watcher and chatter. So yay, thanks, Nick. Kelly McNeil is also, I think, in here for the first time too. So yes, Kelly, good to see you. And she said that she shared the stream in their community. And Kelly also said, Mark, is that Bowser that I hear? So for those of you that may be new to joining us on Fridays, you may hear some snorting and
Hey, Kelly.
and grumbles, a little bit of burping, and it is a French bulldog that Mark.
I've been really trying hard to get the microphone closer to me and just adjust my hand.
You don't have to worry about it. Like I told people on this before, when Mark and I were working together and stuff, I got a great demo of what we were building, and just right over his voiceover. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we also got, let's see, I miss watching E3 on Tech TV G4. Yeah, there was an era of that. But, if you want to see some older videos about that, Victor Lucas, awesome friend of ours, he's been going back and bringing back out all of the old stuff that he was doing with Digital Playground, and I think they release it every Friday, and he's on LinkedIn, so make sure you check that stuff out. It's great to go back there. Kim Pallister, hey Kim, very good. Conference Supernova is a known phenomenon. Show grows in size, gets more expensive, gets more diluted for attendees to find their business partners. Eventually, it doesn't make sense, right? Yeah, which unfortunately, that's where we are. The first E3 Supernova even resulted in a dwarf star E3 for a year, just to torture my analogy. Yes, thank you for the torturous analogy, Kim. Oh, and then Creature over on YouTube said, R.I.P. Kentia Hall, the spot where the real E3 lived.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I will tell you, E3 is where I discovered one of the great unknown gems with Mark for the GameCube while walking around the show floor. And you know exactly what I'm going to say, right? Ribbit King Plus.
Oh, Ribbit King.
That's
Oh my
right.
God.
You going to play a
was
game of
awesome.
golf with a frog that you put on a little seesaw and smack with a hammer? That's the game, Ribbit King Plus. It's
Ribbit
awesome.
King. I forgot about that. I love that.
Yeah, but look, hey, good that ESA is jumping back in and kind of crafting something that aligns with their mission, right? Representing the industry in Washington and bringing thought leadership together. So I wish them the best of luck and love to, participate in that too. So,
Yep. Yeah,
excellent.
I think so too.
All right, what else
Did
we
you
got?
guys see that Winifred Phillips won a Grammy for the music from Wizardry?
Yes.
That was kind of amazing.
Yes. Yes.
I'm gonna be super happy to see. Congratulations to her. Best score soundtrack for video games.
That's
and
right.
other interactive media.
Is that one of those that they announced during the daytime, I guess, or?
I think that probably goes in the same.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the side awards with visual effects and other stuff.
Yeah, we're not on
think
the
it's
main
all
stage yet for that.
We'll get there.
But if you haven't played this new version of Wizardry, which was done by Digital Eclipse, our good buddies, Mike Micah, Chris Charla, Dan Amrick, all those folks over there, it's a really great kind of modernization of the game. And I actually played through part of it on a live stream back, I think, in like November or so. And it's awesome. So it's the actual core gameplay underneath, but all new treatment on top of it. And that's what they do, just, absolutely knock it out of the park every time they do it. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely go check it out on Steam.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about the Grammys is that they did talk a lot about being inclusive, during the show, and that like they've changed, who votes quite dramatically there, and that's a good thing. But they don't have video games as a category in these awards in the actual show yet.
Yeah,
and they
not
also like if you wanted a good listen to K-pop, like the only time you've ever had some kind of chance was with BTS, right? And so
Right.
where are the international sort of groups that would reflect that they are being a lot more inclusive, and K-pop in particular to not have anything related to it is kind of stunning right now, right? So
Agreed.
a ways to go.
Yep. All right, what else we got? What I've got a news story that Dean actually wrote about, but I'm gonna wait here to mention
Here's
that.
I think a fun one, also probably for you, but like I'm not super familiar with this franchise, but SNK is making Fatal Fury for the first time in 25 years, right?
Mhm.
And the Saudis acquired SNK a while ago, and they've also created the Esports World Cup. So sight unseen, they are taking SNK's Fatal Fury game and making it an esport at the Esports World Cup. So it's like the 20th game that's going to be part of the Esports World Cup now. And I thought, that's a very interesting way for this game to get off the ground and to see some sort of coordination or strategy within sort of the Saudi investments into games, right? And so
and to
go
be
and buy
reintroduced.
SNK, and now they've got content for the Esports World Cup, which they also own, right? So,
Yeah, and to be reintroduced to a new audience, right? I mean, Fatal Fury was big, like in the fighting game era, I mean, not that era ever disappeared, but there was a moment in time where the gravity of fighting games, right, was inescapable. And, from your article here, Fatal Fury is a cornerstone of fighting game history franchise that helped ignite the competitive spirit of the 1990s arcade boom and set the stage for the genre's mainstream revolution, said Fabian Schumerman, Chief Games Officer at the Esports World Cup Foundation. And not wrong, right? I mean, Fatal Fury is very well remembered. And of course, if you played any of those types of fighting games, you lean to one or the other. You couldn't just necessarily switch them up. So it's really cool to see this franchise kind of be dusted off and brought forward to a new generation. So it'll be great. Great to see.
Fatal Fury City of the Wolves is launching in April.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. SNK games also have a huge place in my heart. Love SNK games back in the day. So yes. All right, how about you, Mr. Delora? What else is picking in the back of that big brain of yours?
Did you see that the Treyarch co-founder is the one who was flying the drone during the LA fires?
Yeah, that was obviously, an unfortunate accident. I mean, they were nothing malicious. It was just, it happens to be somebody that's in the industry,
and who likes drones and was, putting up a drone to see what was going on.
Yeah,
all totally makes sense. And he fessed up and paying a fine and doing community service. So good on him for that. But
yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say, me living about 15 minutes from a major airport, flying a drone, you have to register it, right? You have to, there's an automatic ceiling on it and things like that. And I'm like, I'll stay at half of the ceiling because I don't trust all of it to get it all right, Yeah,
under 10 feet. Sold.
Yes, exactly. When Too Tall Jones comes to visit, we're going to clip him right in the head because I'm flying it right over. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, in maybe more relevant news, I was interested to see that the Brookhaven game on Roblox was acquired by Voldex, who I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, no, it's they have a very interesting strategy at Voldex. So they're one of the companies that brings brands into Roblox, right? And so it's extremely successful. There's more than 400 brands on Roblox now, right? And they bought the UFL game, which is a football game on Roblox that is extremely successful. It's it's got lots of plays, and then they brought the NFL brand into the game, after they bought it, right? And so then now it's an officially licensed NFL game, and they can throw in all this other merchandise that people could buy in that game, um, and and now they're going out and acquiring another successful game, Brookhaven, which has had billions of plays, right? Yeah. And so interesting strategy that you would think maybe some of the AAA guys would figure out. Like, this is a space where we need to be right now. Like Sega's like the only one, that's got the Sonic Speedrun game out. Yeah. That's the #1 game on Roblox, and the whole reason why Disney invested in this into Fortnite was they realized that they're not catching any of this generation through any other way, and that Disney TV shows they're not capturing the Gen Z audience or Gen Alpha audience, and these kids are playing games starting at age 3, but they're not starting on like a Nintendo thing. They're starting on smartphone, and they're doing things like Roblox, right? And so in a generation, those brands are all going to be gone if they don't somehow figure out how to reach these young people now. Yeah. Right? And so I think I do think the AAA companies right now are all missing out because they're struggling with what they're doing, but they're not seeing where the new gamers are and making these simple games for Roblox players.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, especially because when you take a look at Gen Alpha and you kind of look at the behaviors there versus generations, that is the first generation where video games are the #1 form of engagement and content. It just is, right? So when we talk about, people still going to continue to play, I mean, we're not even getting started. Like, we're still not at the point where every generation that exists in totality grew up with video games, right? We still have people that didn't. When we move to the point where everybody has had video games as part of culture, then, right, then we talk about what the expansion looks like beyond that. But I think, Disney's super smart to move into those spaces because they almost, in some ways, didn't really have a choice. Like, they had to be there. And when I take a look at like Disney Infinity was an amazing way to bring all these different Disney characters, environments into one space. Toys to Life, segment, basically disappeared because people didn't want a bunch of that plastic in their house and everything. So this is the next opportunity to kind of move into that space. And then look what's happening in reverse. We're watching video games leave the electronic entertainment format, and we're having theme parks built around video games. So we're going through this cycle right now. I think it was really smart, right, for Disney to jump in and take it seriously, take that investment and really go build a presence for themselves, for their properties, and for engagement, right, for a generation that's growing up with interactivity first. Very, very good. Very smart. Right. Tyler Stark says, kids these days need to experience the water temple from Ocarina of Time at least once. Yes, I agree.
Now I'm going to have the fairy song stuck in my head for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, but you know what else you'll have stuck in your head? Hey, listen. My apologies. So I have a news piece I'd like to bring up here that Dean was kind of to write about. Amazon Web Services says GameLift can now support up to 100 million concurrent users per game. And this is a benchmark that the team over here, I happen to, full disclosure, work in that organization. They did a benchmark test and support up to 100 million concurrent users globally in a single game.
In a game?
Yeah, for a single game. Now, what GameLift is, for those of you that don't know, it is basically a way for you to go ahead and utilize kind of the Amazon infrastructure. And when players want to go ahead and play a game, it can find a server that is best suited for the people that want to play in a particular area. It fires that up. spins the game up, people go ahead and play, and then when the game is over, the server shuts down. So the players get access to the best possible server within our infrastructure that's closest to them for a great experience. And when it shuts down, you're only paying for the time that that game was operating on that server. So there's no idle server time or, investing in depreciating assets. So it's really good because it takes a lot of the discovery, the load balancing, spinning up and winding down of those servers, and helps you really be more efficient, right? And so, so they hit this 100 million player benchmark.
That's nice. Yeah, there's something else I wrote about this week too that kind of related to the same challenge or problem there, and I thought it was a very interesting solution. I don't know if you guys remember, John Radoff from our Clubhouse days,
and friend John, yes, we do.
John is very good at explaining things, so he got this into my head in a way that I saw. Okay, I can see why your strategy is interesting here. But like John's the CEO of Beamable. They raised $13 million this week, and they're making back end services for live service games and multiplayer games. And they saw that people can use this, but the developers might be worried that we might go out of business someday, and then what's going to happen to them, right? Also, like if their game takes off, what do we do about it? How can we help them scale up, right? And be able to handle all those players. And so they did two things that are kind of interesting in that, like, they open sourced their service, their backend technology, so that it's never going to die. And so, like, it's not like, say, GameSparks, I think, was the one that shut down, and 2,000 developers basically had to find a solution because the games were not going to be available anymore. So by open sourcing the tech, then they at least can be assured that they can go grab this tech and do what they need to and re-implement it and make sure their game stays up. Even if Beamable were to go out of business. Right. And then the other thing was they're launching a token. They're using the blockchain and trying to find servers in the decentralized infrastructure, kind of like what Aether is doing, finding underused GPUs or process, in their case here, game server CPUs, to scale up any games as the demand comes in for those games, right? And so to immediately go and find them servers that are available in this network. And the way they, there's no blockchain requirement that it has to be a blockchain game here. It can be done for Web 2 games or Web 3 games or whatever. But where the blockchain comes in handy is that they're giving tokens to these companies that have the underused GPUs, and then saying, okay, provide us with that ability to scale up when we need to for these games, and then you're compensated in return with having this token, right? So a very creative solution to what I think are real problems there of people being afraid of things like lock-in, not sure, when they need all of the extra CPUs, the scaling up for popular games. Anyway,
good, Mark.
It was nice to have an actual good explanation for, why these things should exist. So I appreciated that, talking to Radoff.
Chris, I was curious. That number was yellow light for me because I was trying to imagine how you test 100 million CCUs and what that means. Do you have any info about what that is for cynical engineers like me?
So yes, Mark. In fact, I do. What a great question. I'm so glad you brought that up. And in fact, you can go check out Dean's article right there on the page. But when talking about preparing for scale, and also happy to have the conversation right in more depth going forward, but developers can use projected CCUs to determine required virtual machine capacity for optimal game performance. For example, here's how you calculate VM requirements to support 10 million CCUs for games. We have an equation that does that. So Amazon GameLift is capacity available in 23 regions around the world and 9 local zones, allowing it to scale to the 83,333 VMs needed to support 10 million CCUs. And then they go and they talk about how they went ahead and created those game sessions quickly, sensibly, and then taking that up to 100 million. So there's more technical information and detail here. We also have a blog post on the games part of our AWS website. So I would suggest anyone that wants to know more about that to go ahead and check out Dean's article and check out the links in there, and it can provide you that data. So
I'm on it. I'll have
Awesome.
questions next week.
Awesome. So Mark's just
No, I
like,
won't.
here we go. So next week I won't be here, and
I'll ask you, Dice. That's fine. What are you guys playing? We're rolling up on.
yeah, we are rolling up on the
10:30.
hour. What's everyone playing right now?
Civilization 7 for me.
Oh, that's
Yay.
right.
Some old games too.
Awesome.
That's right. That's right. How about you, Mr. Delora?
I didn't play a lot this week. I did a little investigation into. I have a side hobby of tracking the presidential election related games every 4 years, and I realized I'd forgotten to do that in November. So I was like looking through those and was going to download a few of the new ones and see what people were making. But I think
Right.
the most fun I had this week was with Kelly, who was apparently watching us, which was I jumped into Lego Fortnite. So she and folks at Digital Promise and Steve Isaacs from Epic, they hold a weekly event for educators to come together and play in Lego Fortnite and network with each other and just have fun. So I jumped in there, and that was a blast. I didn't do much, but it was fun to get in there and talk to people. The
That's
game's
awesome.
evolved a lot, so if you haven't checked it out recently, check it out.
Yeah, for sure. Kelly says Lego Fortnite. Yay! Awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
So I have now been on a good health kick and trend. I have lost quite a bit of weight, and I'm back to exercising, and so I am back to Beat Sabering it up right now.
Nice.
And it's amazing how it's like riding a bike. You start to learn that, you don't go after each individual block. You see them as groups and realize, oh, this is a circle and this is a figure eight. And you start to get in there. But I've also been playing Star Wave, which was the game that was released by Sam Kennedy and James Milkey with their company Tigertron. It's amazing. It's exactly the type of both of them also being DJs. It's exactly the type of music that I would have expected. It's a lot of techno and a lot of electronica, type of music, trance and that kind of stuff. If you take a look at the work that, people like James had done in the past, and working on like Child of Eden on the PlayStation 3 and stuff, it's that very ethereal, floating through space and connecting to stars and hitting notes and building constellations. It's awesome. It's great. So I've been doing that, and I'm still making my way through Indiana Jones, which is just so joyous, and I love it. But yeah, that's
it's a great game.
yeah, it truly is. Let's see. Shannon Aloft is here. Hey, Shannon says,
Hey, Shannon.
Beat Saber spoilers. Oh, yes. I can show you the 5 different preferred grip types that you want to use depending on the type of score you're going for. And it's expert or expert plus only. If you're going to jump in, that's what we got to go do. And I think I may have even shared this once before as we wrap up. Technology is wonderful for keeping us connected and allowing us to experience all this stuff. And then sometimes you have to remember how you're connected. And in our family, our Apple Watches are all synced, right? Because we share family account, that kind of thing. And I told this to Mark one day. One of my daughters, when she was away at college, she texts me one day and says, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Your heart rate hit like 172 and you burned 1,100 calories. Like, what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, my buddy beat my one high score in Beat Saber in this one song. So I spent the last 2 hours just besting him there." And she's like, "Dad, just be careful." So it was,
That's funny.
I'm like, yeah, that's true. But Yeah, that's going to take us to the end of the live stream this week. I want to thank everybody that went ahead and joined today. We had a lot of new faces, a lot of good chat. Please let your friends know. We do this pretty much every Friday. Now, I just said that, but next Friday, we're all going to be at DICE, and people are going to be in flight coming back. So we're going to postpone the Friday one, because again, it's DICE, but we'll pick it up immediately in the following week, and we'll have a lot to say. Maybe I can even convince my co-host to stretch it for another 30 minutes so we can get all those news stories in there. But there are things that you want to go and hear us talk about, or things that we missed. Please go ahead and add them to the chat. Let people know by reposting the link to Boss Rush to your wall, so we can get bigger audience in here, and we can continue having these great conversations. So I want to thank my co-hosts, Dean Takahashi and Mark Delora, and of course, Susan Cummings, who couldn't be with us today, but we hope to have her here next time, and hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and an awesome weekend, and we'll see you next time on Boss Rush. Thanks, gang.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Easy. Have a good weekend.